welcome to the Train Crash podcast. Today I'm joined with Oliver Rowley of Heat Bin Colliery, as usual, and today we're going to be talking about how will COVID-19 affect the hobby in the long and short-term impacts. But how have you been managing with this COVID-19 crisis?
Well, I've had a bit of a resurgence in me actually doing stuff, modelling wise. Obviously, I was working a fair bit, or volunteering rather, a fair bit before lockdown was called, and I didn't really get much chance to do much modelling. So it's kind of allowed me to sort through a lot of my modelling things and get on some projects that I wouldn't normally be getting on with right now. Obviously, we've been running our A4 diorama competition, which I'm sure will be mentioned later. That's been a really nice bit of help, just getting me back into modelling, scenics and things like that, kit building, things like that, which I haven't done in a little bit. But working on locomotives, I've recently gone through all the super detailing packs for my locomotives, gone through and fitted them to the locomotives and things like that. I've also sorted through my own detailing pack, where detailing box, where the various different things I've bought over time we fitted to locomotives, and I've been going through fitting them. Etched nameplates, etched builders plates have gone on locomotives, such as my Hatton's Andrew Barclay. So for me, it's kind of been a bit of a resurgence. I've had 2 bits of new stock in, both picked up cheaply, a Dapol 14XX and a Pico German 060 thing, and there's actually a third one as well, which I bought a little bit before lockdown, which was a Lima class 475, which I've been working on. But what this is allowing me to do, it's allowing me to actually get on with these projects. Like the Lima locomotive that I just mentioned, for example, I bought a little bit before, and it's just allowing me to get on with it now, whereas before I didn't. What about you?
So I normally model kind of fairly regularly. And what's happened is, because of COVID-19, my A-levels have been cancelled and my work is closed. So basically, I've got 7 days a week for weeks on end now of just freedom. I've not got any other commitments. So I've been able to crack on with a lot of modelling. I've rebuilt, I'm in the process of rebuilding one of my older layouts, Quantum Colliery. And I've worked on lots of different bits of stock and weathering bits and just starting a few projects, but also finding the time and space to finish off some. I spent some time in my training room, so I'm kind of taking my time with things. When lockdown started, I kind of maybe forced myself to do a little bit too much modelling, but now I'm kind of getting in the flow with it, and now I'm maybe doing modelling as more relaxation and just finding something to do throughout the day. Something that I think it's a bit of a problem though for modelling at the moment. I can't really get a hold of any track through online suppliers. Struggling to maybe think about building a new layout or expanding current ones, but hopefully that issue will be resolved soon.
I believe that's because of the moves towards Brexit that happened towards the tail end of last year. Led to a lot of Pico track, especially being shipped over to the continent, panic buying, as my local model shop described it. This is where I'm getting this information from, by the way. So it's a reputable source. He's got a very good relationship with Pico, actually. So obviously, with the moves towards Brexit and various different things that will entail for UK continental trading, a lot of Pico track was bought up towards the tail end of last year and early this year. By model shops and modelers on the continent, which has meant that Pico's already got depleted supplies, and then obviously this has come along, which has meant that the supply for track has probably increased a little bit, whereas their production obviously has ceased, which has kind of meant there's a disparity between the two, which is why you are having the trouble finding the track and getting hold of the track. I believe it's all across the board, not just the flexi track, set track, point work, things like that. All sorts of track is being used up by everybody, and I believe that issue isn't really going to be sorted obviously until the Pico are allowed back into work to replenish those stocks. But yeah, I think that's something that is worth noting, is that after this there will still be people wanting that material or whatever it is after this is all finished, and I think that will be a big long-term knock-on for the hobby as a whole.
Yeah, and we've also seen a lot of model shops, particularly the large ones and online presence to support, are showing us that they've had an increase in sales, particularly, well, they're all online sales now. So do you think this is an indicator that people are taking advantage of the lockdown to do more modelling, maybe?
Oh, definitely. You just look at sites like RM Web, Facebook modelling pages, Instagram modelling pages, or train siding, things like that. All of them appear to be having more and more people getting involved. I'm using RM Web again for the first time in about 2 years. And every day you go on there, there's brand new themes, brand new topics. And it's really good to see because obviously this is a hobby that we all share. And it's really good to see people helping each other out with ideas and things. And I think this lockdown has maybe encouraged people to try new things as well. You've had a go at building track.
Yeah, not very successfully, but I've had a go and I've had some successes. We've also been playing around resting as well. That's another new technique I've been learning at the moment. And I know you've been working on some detailing bits, the logo, doing diorama as well.
Yeah, and I think we are pretty typical of most modelers is that we've had a bit of a spike in what we're doing. But obviously we are using up supplies. I'm very fortunate that I've been buying bits and bobs up over the last couple of years, so I've got enough to go back on with and things like that. But I know a lot of modelers are struggling to get hold of things, but that means those modelers are reinventing things they've already got. You're working on your 009 locomotive, aren't you, again? Which you don't appear to put down very often, if I'm being completely honest. But you've reworked your DGM, austerity tank, things like that. And I think a lot of people are doing rebuilds to either existing layout or existing locomotives, as well as the ones that can or do have access to those supplies of track to start new layouts and things like that.
Yes, so maybe more creative problem solving. I'd also say I've seen a lot more activity online on our web, and it seems that we're turning, because we don't often expect to see regular exhibitions up and down the country and model railway club meetings, and that seems to have all been put online. So as well, recently, I believe there was a virtual online exhibition on Facebook, and also there was a virtual online exhibition hosted on our web for some charities. So maybe we're going to see more a push, if lockdown continues, of more kind of exhibitions online. But something interesting to discuss would also be how exhibitions will be affected currently and also in the future, because exhibitions, particularly hosted by small model railway clubs, they're crucial to that model railway club surviving for that year. The exhibition, the ticket sales and whatnot, they'll pay for the club room rent. They'll often fund club layouts, and not being able to get these funds will cause quite a big problem for these clubs because they often don't have large savings or anything like that. And also in the future, how do you think the exhibitions will, if they're allowed back on the end of the year, do you think there'll be changes to the format maybe, or how they're held?
I think there will have to be a change to every big sort of meetup. I mean, I'm a big fan of football. Football stadiums are breeding grounds for those sort of germs. Schools as well and things like that. And I think model railway exhibitions are the same, especially if you go to the big ones or the ones that are held in small venues. The joke is always that the people smell there, but in all seriousness, at times you can see dodgy bits of personal hygiene. And obviously, because it's just a mass of people, especially if there's barriers and things or second-hand stalls, everybody's picking things up and putting things down for somebody else to come along and do it. I do think we'll maybe see the development of that, where it's more like a, can you please show me this sort of thing, which I know some modelers, some model shops actually do when they are at exhibitions. I believe the Backman's second stand is extremely keen on it, probably because I'll have people walking away with stuff. But you have to ask them to pick something up for them to show you and things like that. If memory serves, it's been a couple of years since I've seen them at an exhibition. And yeah, I think social distancing will have to be enforced there. And obviously, if you've only got a layout that's 2 meters long, that only means you can only have one person looking at it close up. I think the people with big cameras and things that tend to try and take your head off as they're moving towards the front of the queues. I think maybe special photography permits will have to be brought in, allowing them to get close enough for things, where there'd maybe have to be tests done or something like that. I don't know. I think obviously exhibitions will have to fall in line with a lot of other public gatherings, probably more in line with like town hall meetings and maybe like community dancing sort of things or whatever. But yeah, there'll be a massive change to them, and if I'm honest, I think it could maybe help it, because when I go to an exhibition and I'm there, I'm not particularly short, but then again, I'm not 6'5". When I'm getting knocked about and whatever, pinged between people or whatever in an exhibition, and people stamping on your toes or whatever, it does kind of put you off. So maybe a silver lining to this all is that that'll be brought to a stop, and it's really what's it. I know a lot of people who don't like going to exhibitions for the fact that it's claustrophobic at times, especially when there's 3-4 people deep to a layout and you're second row in and you've got people pushing from behind. I think that's going to be a massive thing, and hopefully that'll be stopped after this.
It's insane, isn't it? Something that we both think might happen as well is if you look at the demographic of the hobby, for a lot of them fall into the vulnerable category to coronavirus. Or to go to an exhibition if they know that they're in the at-risk category, and there'll be lots of people there. So even if exhibitions do open, there's no telling of how many people will actually want to go. And obviously we'd have to see lockdown end before that is, and that's probably going to be a couple of weeks. So at the end of the year, we might still have no exhibitions that really have kind of significant numbers attending them. And obviously if you can't pay the venue cost, if you can't pay the travel and accommodation costs of all your exhibitors, then it's not going to be worth doing. And I've also heard on the exhibition circuit, stuff like that, a lot of exhibitors have said they're not going to exhibit till 2021 and stuff like that. So maybe even if the larger exhibitions are allowed to go ahead, they might not necessarily have the people to exhibit there, or the people that volunteer and give up their weekends to go and work on the kind of the ticket sales stand, the raffle stand, the tea and coffee stand. So because they're predominantly older. So something else we talked about is model shop footfall might fall. So though we've seen a massive increase in online spending, online shopping in model shops, the model shops that have none or very little online presence are really going to suffer from this, aren't they? They're going to have their spending really in that shop if they don't have an online presence, whilst everyone else spends the money in larger shops where the profit might not be as needed. Something else we talked about as well is modelers' motivation might fall. Now, if you want to stay motivated, you can participate in our A4 diorama competition. Time for a quick plug. And basically, the competition is all about using what you've got and just building something small and quickly and put something together and see what you can do, learn a new skill. It's just something to keep you fun and motivated, because when you've got a big project, a big layout, or a daunting wrong stop build or whatever, it's often nice to just take a change, take a break from that project and work on something different and smaller, and something that isn't actually that important, so it doesn't matter if you mess it up. So thinking about kind of more long-term impacts, how do you think model releases and kind of new releases announcements, how do you think COVID-19 could affect that?
Well, obviously it's kind of a massive knock-on effect. They'll be delayed in whether they're in design, production, quality control, ready to go onto the ship, actually in the UK getting ready to be disbanded from a shipping yard or whatever. There's going to be delays. And even if it's just in the research stage, it makes sense for producers of more than one locomotive. And if memory serves, I don't think there's a manufacturer in the UK or that produces for the UK that has only got one model being made. Even the ones who are working on the GT3 are now doing the FEL and things like that. So it makes sense for those firms that have models that will be delayed and a model in research is to focus on the one that's been delayed. And as such, that delay that they're working on to overcome will pass on in some small way, whether it's big or small, really, onto that research. And I think it will knock it back. I think as modelers, we are used to waiting for manufacturers to bring things out. Bachmann's a prime example with their 94XX and various different models, things like that. Their 121s, their 117s, things like that. And yeah, whether it's a couple of months or whether it's a year or two or who knows, we don't quite know. It depends how much time in the production run these manufacturers have got. For example, those who are producing the GT3, and the name has slipped me, and it's going to come to me 5 minutes after we finish this podcast, and I'll be really frustrated with myself.
K? Is it KRS?
Yes, something like that. I believe it does begin. Anyway, they said that they'd worked, that they'd got a 4-week window where they had got as almost like a buffer. That they'd worked really hard, and as such, that 4-week buffer was between. They had 4 spare weeks where their model was still finished, but was not ready to be released as such. So, although it was done on, it was just waiting to be released, or whatever they described it as. And that 4-week window, which is what they said, has been blown out of the water straight away. And I can't imagine how disheartening that must be as a manufacturer to work your backside off to have this window where, if anything goes wrong, we've got 4 weeks before delivery dates are due and things like that, to suddenly have something knock that back straight out of the water anyway. Now, you've just got to hope that these manufacturers have got enough in the bank and things like that to carry on. I've seen a couple of people wondering about the future of Hornby, and obviously the scale electric and Airfix and things like that go along with it. And I think that's something that we do need to be a little bit aware of, is that this is going to have a massive economic impact on everything. And that comes back to modelers, whether some modelers will be laid off after this or anything like that. You've just got to hope that the government puts the right things in place for them. These manufacturers are going to have a similar sort of thing as well, where profit margins will be massively affected. And as Hornby, a company that always teeters on losing money every year anyway, who knows what this will mean for them.
Yeah, hopefully we'll all pull through together and, come out stronger as we get through this. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up to discuss?
So one thing that we've kind of mentioned a little bit is that stock in the UK, and obviously a big fan of eBay. Now, eBay prices, interestingly, have not increased any more than they normally are. Things are pretty on trend, really, which I thought would be different. I thought people would either be trying to sell off stock to get a little bit of cash in, or people will be putting higher price tags on it because more people will be looking on eBay to buy something to make the week interesting or whatever, if that's the sort of person who's on eBay. But prices seem to pretty bob on, and I think that's good. Obviously, it means that you can pick up stuff for a decent price rather than it being extortion, which is something that I did fear. Because you see certain things like the Hornby Merry Christmas wagons or whatever, they go for stupid prices the year after, and that's because of the supply-demand sort of thing. And obviously, demand, chances are, is going to peak a little bit as more people are at home and thinking, oh, this locomotive will really finish off this project really well, and they'll be on eBay looking for it. So that's the little spike that I'm expecting in demand, but the price is pretty bob on, really.
That's good, and it's just going to encourage people to, be able to continue to get more projects on the go and work through those.
And okay, so I think we're at the end now, which is unusual. I've not finished one of these in ages. So there will be links in the bottom to our various social medias, including the link to the podcast where we discuss our competition. Please do feel free to come join it. It's great fun. I've really enjoyed working on mine. If you look on the RM webpage, you'll be able to see both of our progresses, along with the other people who are getting involved. And yeah, please do stay inside, please do stay safe, and please do feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if that's what you're interested in. We hope to see you guys again very, very soon.